Okay, we're in. Welcome to day one of the masterclass series. And in this video, I will be discussing how you start your level of brand authority. And as I always say, if you don't know, brand authority is your personal brand, your business brand, and your campaign brand. But we're going to get into a lot in this video. So before we even get started, please do like, please do comment if you have any questions, if you learn anything new, and also please do subscribe. This is going to be extremely informative and useful for you. And as I said before, I am very privileged and grateful to be in a position where I can learn things and I can teach, right? My whole life has been learning and teaching. And right now, that's bliss for me because I get to always learn, develop, and refine my skills. And I get to showcase those skills to a wider audience. So, for stage one, this is fix your foundations, right? And this is where you get that level of clarity that you need in order to build your level of brand authority. So, let's just get straight into it. Let's get started. So, firstly, you are credible and capable, but your authority isn't clearly defined. So, your visibility creates noise instead of positioning. And that's something I've had to also learn the hard way. And it's something that I've also been able to understand how to improve on your level of positioning. And it all starts with how you fix your foundations. And, credible experts, they stay invisible when their authority isn't clearly defined. So I left my corporate role to build systems that turn expertise into structured positioning. And as you know, I left my full-time role in July 2024, right? And since then, I've been building my brand and establishing my name. And as you know, I'm on a journey of building a seven-figure brand within 1,000 days. And in this series, I am sharing what it takes to have that level of brand authority, where to start with, and how to fix your foundations so your path is more clear in terms of what you need to be doing to secure more opportunities for yourself. So, in a nutshell, I help founders and expert service providers whose revenue depends on trust turn their expertise into recognized authority that strengthens pipeline, pricing, and commercial leverage. As you know, I have pivoted over to working more so with fractional CFOs and independent finance leaders. But as far as this channel is concerned, I'm with the founders and the expert service providers. I am here to help and serve you. And this is what we're doing today in this video. So how does this work? If you are not familiar with my channel, you would know that I have the P.H.A.S.E brand authority system. This is a methodology and a framework I created at the start of my journey. And it is a methodology that I live by and I work with when it comes down to any form of client work. And this is effectively what I go and live by when it comes down to even developing my own level of brand authority for myself. So we have the 3B authority method, which I cover as the why, which we'll get into. In all my videos, you hear me talk about the 3B authority method, but you will know exactly what it is when I go into it. The P.H.A.S.E framework, it talks about the how. I will go through the how in this particular stage. And then lastly, the authority flywheel in this one. However, this is what I will be covering in this particular video. If you are interested in more of the aspects of the P.H.A.S.E brand authority system, then make sure you check out the following videos that I will be sharing, right? Because remember, this is only section 1, right? Section 2, 3, and 4 is on its way. So in the meantime, if you are starting at the beginning and you want to learn how to start your brand authority and your level of brand authority, you start here. You start right here, and then you work your way through the process. And then by the time you finish all of them, you'll know exactly what you need to do to not only start building your brand authority, but to learn how to build it, how to amplify it, and how to protect it. But we will cross that bridge when we get there. Right now, we are focusing on how to start and how to fix your foundations. So for that reason, we will be starting for the 3B authority method and the first 2 letters of the P.H.A.S.E framework, which I will dive into in a moment. So why does this exist? So brilliant experts are quietly hidden behind their own businesses, right? They have results, they have expertise, they have experience, they have all those things going for them, but they don't have the visibility to match their value. And that is the main thing. There is no issues when it comes down to the skill, right? It's not a skill problem. There is a gap between the credibility of the individual and the level of visibility. And as you can see with Homer, missing in plain sight. And we don't want that for your business, right? We don't want that for you as you're building your brand. So why foundations come first? And this is something that I need to establish first and foremost, because, you know, when we are excited with so many of these various different strategies and techniques and tools, right? Content calendars, the algorithm, the content series, growth tactics, AI and automation tools. There are so many different things available to us, and we can suffer from shiny object syndrome and then start to get involved in things that we shouldn't even be getting involved in just yet because we haven't fixed our foundations. So with that in mind, I say when foundations are weak, visibility doesn't compound, it collapses. And when you are there throwing random things at the problem, hoping that it sticks, and you don't actually have a strategy that is based on the foundational level of fixing what it is based on your positioning, then it will be a lot harder in the long run to grow and to develop and to scale and to build your brand. So when it comes down to the AI reality, right now we are living in this AI reality. We're all in it, whether we like it or not. You may be like me, someone who is very immersed in the world of AI, or you may be someone that isn't necessarily loving it right now. You're not enjoying the idea of having to incorporate all these different AI tools into your business. It just makes things more complicated. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be on this side of the fence or on that side of the fence, or you could literally be standing on top of the fence. However, content is easier than ever to produce. I've always said it. Attention as a result is now diluted. And visibility alone is no longer an advantage. Credibility is the currency. Because you would have heard me say this before. The more that a lot of us are able to incorporate all these various different AI tools, we are able to generate and develop and create more content to put online. Everyone is doing the same thing now. All of us are content creators. All of us are actively putting ourselves out there online in order to build our level of branding, right? Whether you're focused on solely the personal brand is another story, but we'll get into that shortly. But my whole point is that when you are in a sea of sameness and everyone is producing the same sort of content through the aspects of AI, and they're all using AI the same way. They're not using it with great prompts. They just type in, make me a LinkedIn post about XYZ. And then whatever comes out, they copy and paste and that's done. When you do that and you're in a sea of sameness, you have to understand that's not going to make you stand out one bit. That's not going to make you stand out one bit. What you need to ensure that you stand out in a sea of sameness right now is a level of credibility that is visible, right? And we will get into that shortly. So no matter whether you're using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Copilot, you need to ensure that what you are doing holds a level of credibility that makes you stand out from the rest. So where most founders go wrong. Most founders start with content, but they skip that level of clarity that is essential to what they need it for. They focus on posting more content. They focus on chasing the algorithm. They focus on being everywhere all at once, right? And instead of defining who they serve, the problem they solve, and why they are trusted by those set of people, it's a lot more harder to get through. It's a lot more harder to get through. And I had to learn that the hard way personally, because I always felt conflicted when it came down to the idea of, you know, niching down or finding my target audience, because I've been in the PR industry for a decade. I've been in various different sectors, worked across various different agencies. I label myself a jack of all trades. But as I stepped into the world of entrepreneurship, I soon realized that that doesn't necessarily work for me, and it doesn't apply the same way. Because as you are looking to attract people, you have to be targeted in your approach. And if you are someone who feels like you can attract everyone, in the grand scheme of things, you will attract no one. And that is something that I had to learn over time. And that's something that I am very, very passionate about when it comes down to not only just niching down, because it doesn't have to be niche down based on the actual industry per se. You niche down more so on the pain point that you are looking to resolve, and then you build from there. But it is only until you get to that level of understanding where you are then able to produce the relevant content for your desired target audience. And it won't connect the dots in terms of you putting out the content until you focus on those particular things. So for this part, we are going to cover the 3B authority method, and you will be very familiar with this because I always say brand authority for me is your personal brand multiplied by your business brand multiplied by your campaign brand. When those brands come together, you get to a level of brand authority that makes you more visible and credible to your desired target audience. Your personal brand, right, is your judgment buyers learn to trust. Your personal brand is equated to a level of trust. Your business brand is the proof, what you can deliver, what you promise. That level of credibility that what you say you can do, you can actually do it. And then the campaign brand is your strategic narrative that makes those expertise visible. It is the thing that allows you to build your personal brand and your business brand simultaneously. So you are no longer in the position where you are not able to align yourself with your desired target audience in order to build your level of brand authority, because you have then allowed yourself to build your personal brand based on your judgment that your buyers learn to trust. And then when you establish based on what you talk about often, how frequently you talk about it, and where you talk about it, that also plays a part into how you then figure out who your actual buyer and who your actual target audience is in that respect. So authority appears when your personal brand, your business brand, and campaign brands express the same truth in a way that's suited to each channel. And by no means am I saying that every single part needs to be the same, because it doesn't. It doesn't at all. For me, for example, my personal brand, right, Tariq Peters, the brand authority strategist, that is my personal brand. That is who I am in a nutshell. My business brand is my agency, Follow the Phases, the agency, the brand authority agency that helps fractional CFOs and independent finance leaders. That is the business brand aspect of things. And then the campaign brand, you're watching it right now. The £1 million visibility blueprint is my campaign brand. That is me documenting the whole process from the day that I started dropping every single day on the 1st of January 2026 until my last day of me recording, uploading daily videos, which I believe is the 26th of September 2028. That is my whole documentation journey. That is 1,000 days of documentation and me producing content to show you the process of what it means to build a 7-figure brand within that time frame. Now that I have established how I have broken down my brand into my personal brand, my business brand, and my campaign brand, that is the trifecta necessary in order to build a level of brand authority. Because the more that I produce said content through my campaign, the more people are able to acknowledge who I am and to learn who I am, which then ties into the personal brand, right? They get that level of trust after seeing me countless times. There's I literally, the more that I produce content and the more that I am able to distribute said content, as I've been saying all the time, the more that people will ultimately know who I am, what I do, my passion points, my expertise, my journey, my objective, my mission, all those things based on me doing my campaign. It ties into the aspects of you learning more about me and effectively having more trust in me, having more faith in me that I'm able to deliver on what I say I can do. And as I continue to do that and I build the agency, the business brand, that is a section where I use that as a way to directly target my buyers, my target audience. And that is the aspects of how I'm able to incorporate all three of those brands. And then we have the phases framework. And then I know we're only going to cover the first two, but I thought, you know what, it's only right that I go through the whole process with you. So the phases framework, in short, we have positioning, we have the hook, we have amplification, we have strategic partnerships, we have engagement, and we have sustainability. And for the sake of this video, I'm just going to cover the positioning and the hook, because when you are fixing your foundation, those are the main two things that you need to focus on at this moment in time. Your level of positioning, defining what buyers should trust you for, and then your hook, how you're able to present a distinctive insight worth listening to. All the others will come in the following masterclasses. So if you are interested in those as well, please do subscribe, check out the videos tomorrow and the following days after that, and lock in. It's time to lock in now. So positioning, right? The P of phases. Positioning answers 3 questions instantly, right? Who are you for? What problem do you solve? Why should they trust you? For me, strong positioning creates recognition, differentiation, and faster trust. And the more that you are able to then establish how you position yourself in whatever industry you are looking to get into, that is how you stand out. And even away from this actual phases brand authority system, there's other methodologies in place that I have developed to showcase the importance of how you even get to the stage of understanding how you even niche down to begin with, because that was one of my biggest problems. And then for me, I called it the START method. You may have come across it in one of my previous videos. If you are not familiar, search my name, Tariq Peters, and START, right? As an acronym. So make sure you add the stops as well, and then you'll find that video right away. I won't get too much into that right now because we got loads to go through. But in the grand scheme of things, in short, in fact, the START method is your strengths. First one, S, your strengths. How are you able to focus on your strengths in order for you to establish what your strengths are and the likely person that will benefit from those strengths? The T is your tribe. How are you able to acknowledge a particular subsection of people in this world that you can target and work with directly? Thirdly, the A, agitations. What are the pain points and the things that are really irritating those particular people where you know you have the strengths to help them and they are in a particular subsector or subsection of life that you are looking to get involved in? What are their pain points? What are they trying to resolve? How are you able to position yourself as a painkiller? The R, research. Based on all those things, how are you able to research on these particular points to prove that it is a validated thing that is an issue within that particular section, and how you are able to resolve it? And then lastly, T, target. How are you able to then target based on the various different platforms available to us in order for you to allow people to understand what it is that you do? If you then figure out from the process of the START method and you really sit down and establish who those people are based on their pain points, based on your strengths, based on their agitations, based on the amount of research that you can do to validate these ideas, and then based on you being able to target different places, focus on that aspect in order to build your level of positioning. And then when you get to that stage and you end up here where you then understand, or people understand you based on who you are for, the problem that you solve, and why they should trust you. And then also, when it comes down to your positioning, it is imperative that you develop your brand authority pillars. And pillars are not just content ideas, they are your reputation anchors. They're 3 to 5 pillars that reflect what you know deeply, what you care about, and what your audience needs. And as I say all the time, when it comes down to my brand authority pillars, it is marketing, it is PR, it is branding, it is personal development, and it is AI, right? Those 5 key core areas are areas that are the anchors in my life. They are the things that I can talk about all the time. They're things I care about deeply. They're things that I can talk about for hours on end. It is the things that people also know about me. They know that I care about those things, and I know that based on those things, that is also what my audience needs in terms of getting their head around the idea of building their level of brand authority and incorporating the aspects of marketing and PR into the mix, whilst being able to learn the importance of personal development and to continue to grow and to develop, because that always leads into the idea of being adaptable. And as we are now in this world of AI, it is now or never situation in terms of being able to incorporate and learn how to use that to supercharge your brand, your business, and your life. So when you get to a point where all of your core pillars correlate with each other and they align it as an actual system, then that is something that you move forward with, and you allow people to recognize these things as core pillars in your world. So if you do not have your 5 or 3 to 5 core pillars, your brand authority pillars, have a think about it. Have a think about it. Pause this video if needed. Have a real good think about it and establish what these pillars are. And these pillars can change over time. They can change over time. Just because you have a set pillars now do not mean they will not evolve and grow over time. So don't worry about if it changes over time. And I will say list all the things that you're passionate about, all the things that you enjoy, all the things that you love, that you find interesting, that you want to learn, that you want to get into. List it all down and then narrow it down to 3 or 5, the ones that feel strongest for you personally. And once you do that, then you are in a good position, because not only have you incorporated the START method in terms of identifying who that particular person is that you're looking to sell to, but then you have now aligned it with your positioning to the point where you have your authority pillars to also showcase who you are as well. Because remember, the personal branding part is for you to be able to document yourself as well. And whilst you document, it is based on the things that you are able to share that no one else can share, right? It's in the name. If it's a personal brand, it needs to be personal to you. Where it becomes more complex is when you incorporate the aspects of your business brand and your campaign brand into it. But I feel that a lot of people seem to miss those particular areas, and that's why a lot of people tend to struggle when it comes down to building their personal brand, because they don't know what to do in that aspect. They don't know if they should talk about this or they should talk about that. For me, it's plain and simple. Your personal brand is everything that's personal to you. You highlight and amplify that. Your business brand is based on all the things that allow you to showcase your level of credibility to generate revenue. And your campaign brand is a mixture of that, where you're able to document the process. If you just get that right, then there's no arguments to be had in terms of how you are able to navigate and to continue to build. And with that, you want to establish your brand promise. Your brand promise explains the transformation you create. It's not what you do, but what changes because of you. You want to be in the position where there's a bridge. There's a bridge from A to B, right? Your brand promise is effectively how you are able to help someone cross that bridge seamlessly with no issues, no delays. A strong brand promises clearly state who you help, the problem they face, and the outcome you create. And then when you get to that stage there, then that helps you so much, because then you have now packaged everything into a philosophy for yourself that you can continue to build and grow from. And if we get to this point for myself, with my brand promise, if you cover who I help fractional CFOs, the problem they face, they are incredibly reliant on referrals and they are referral dependent. And the outcome I create is I help them build predictable pipeline systems so they don't need to rely solely on referrals, and they can actually start to predict how they are able to generate more opportunities for themselves in the long term. That is those three areas in a nutshell. But with that, I am able to always acknowledge what it is that I do in terms of how I help, the problems that my target audience has issues with, and the outcome that I create for them. So think about that in terms of building out your brand promise. And then you get to play around in terms of how you are able to make it a impactful one-liner in relation to how you say it. And then based on that, this is a one-liner that you can potentially use. Some people, they say do not use the word help when you're referring to something because you're not a helper. Some people, they don't look at that word as something that downplays their ability. So I would say with this, take it with a pinch of salt and do what you feel aligns best with you. With my LinkedIn, I don't say I help, I say I build. So if you want to use those sort of words to add to a level of credibility, then do so. Because understandably, me helping seems to be like I am just the supporting act. But then if you want to be deemed as more so an expert within your industry, then I can understand the reasons as to why you wouldn't use that word. But I digress. So your brand promise structure could be, I help who move from current problem to desired outcome so they can meaningful result. So just for my example again, since we're here, I help fractional CFOs, that's the who, move from referral dependency, right, to build a predictable pipeline system so they can generate more revenue and build their brand authority online. That is my brand promise structure. And from me saying that, I am able to establish who I'm targeting, explain what their current problem is, talk about the desired outcome in terms of what they're looking for as a result, and then the meaningful result that will allow them to build long term. Package it in various different ways and then narrow it down into the one that works best for you. And then that is how you get to the foundational levels of you building your level of brand authority, because we're just scratching the surface with this. We're literally just scratching the surface with what it means to build your level of brand authority. And it all starts from the foundational aspects and you building on your brand promise and how that aligns with the whole overall ecosystem that you will be building. So now that we have gone through that, it is the elevator pitch. So if someone cannot explain what you do when you are not in the room, your pitch isn't working. And with your idea of building brand authority, you want to build a brand that is so powerful that people are speaking positive things in rooms that you are not even in. But they know exactly who you help. They know the outcome that you are looking to solve for people, and you know how you are able to identify the pain points in order to understand how you are able to help said people. So with the development of the brand promise, you now then are in a position where you can create a one-line version of your pitch. You create a two-line version, and then you create a three-sentence version. So then it is just various different ways that you explain what you do when it comes down to it. And, you know, there's going to be various different circumstances or occasions where you will be put in a position where you need to say exactly what you do. If you follow the idea of developing different versions, like one-liners, two-liners, an actual 30-second pitch, you will then be able to adapt to any circumstance or any situation where you are introducing yourself to someone or someone is talking about you, how they're able to describe you. And you want to get to the point where someone, or matter of fact, if you're watching this, ask someone, what is it that I do in your own words? Say it in your own words and explain what it is that I do, and then see what they say. And then if it is something that doesn't necessarily align with being able to establish who the person is or who the people are that you're helping, how you help them, and what your solution is, then it's just something that you need to continue to repeat and reiterate over and over again until it just becomes a thing that you are known for completely. And, you know, before we continue, if you are enjoying this so far, please do like the video. Please do comment if you have any questions, and also subscribe. But then also, please scan the QR code. I am a regular user of Substack. I write content all the time. In actual fact, I started blogging for years and years ago. However, as far as my campaign goes with what I have been doing regarding the elements of brand building, I have been publishing weekly blog content every Wednesday since August 2024. And it's still going strong. And I shifted it and moved it over from my website to Substack. And I also have the £1 million visibility blueprint series on my Substack, where I cover all of the, you know, the wins, the losses, the messy middles, all the rough patches when it comes down to building a business in public and in real time, and the journey of building a 7-figure brand within 1,000 days. All the content is on there. So if you prefer these videos, that's cool. Please do subscribe. However, if you're someone that prefers to read the content as well and get much more of a deeper insight into the day-to-day, then please do scan the QR code and subscribe to the Substack and check out the content. But let's continue. So now that we are at this stage, you need to ensure that you understand the difference between your ICP and your IFP, right? So your ICP, think of it like this. Your ICP pays you, right? Your ideal client persona, that's your ICP. And your IFP is your ideal follower persona. And those are two different things. And this is the reason why. Your ICP pays you and your IFP amplifies you. So with that in mind, you want to serve the ICP and you want to build trust with the IFP, because authority moves sideways before it moves forward, right? And when you think of it like that, and then you have a process of establishing your brand and developing the strategic partnerships with various different people, that will put you in a fantastic position when it comes down to building your level of brand authority, because you now have an understanding of who it is that follows you for your content, that follows you for your value, and that follows you for your expertise, right? And your IFP may never buy anything from you. And that is completely fine, because what they may not be paying for in monetary value, they will give you all the support that will attract the ICP. And when the ICP acknowledges you for what you've done based on what other people are saying about you, that builds a level of credibility that no one can take away from you. And then that is how you are able to then get your ICP into your ecosystem through the lens of you just being helpful, being useful, being valuable to a set of people already. And then once you are in that position there, then it only makes the process of attracting your ICP a lot more easier, especially when you are doing the process of outreach as well. So that covers the positioning side of things, right? Now we are onto the hook, which is the H of phases. So a hook is permission to be heard, right? A hook is permission to be heard. And in this era, right, it is a lot more harder, I would argue, to build that level of attention and that level of authority, because as mentioned previously, everyone's producing content now. All of us are content creators, whether we like it or not. But then when you think of it, a strong hook needs to challenge assumptions, right? It needs to reframe problems, and it needs to signal relevance instantly. And then what I've learned over time is that a weak hook explains, whereas a strong hook provokes curiosity. It makes you want to dive in more. It makes you want to look into it and think, oh, really? Let me look into that. Or why is that? I'm actually quite interested. You have to kind of really position the hooks as something that is going to get the person by any means necessary to click. And, you know, there's various different viewpoints on how you go about developing hooks. And there's a thin line between what is deemed as clickbait and what is deemed as a hook. But I feel like when you have the best of both worlds and you're bang in the middle when it comes down to the two, I believe that is the best representation of a hook. And then based on that, I believe there are 5 hook styles, right? And if it doesn't stop attention, it never gets seen. And that is something that you have to understand, you have to acknowledge, and just work through it. Because when it comes down to the algorithm, I always say it all the time, the algorithm is not going to save us, especially when you are in the early journeys of building your business, right? Especially when you are focused more so on attracting your ICP, which will more than likely be a specialist area or a niche or as a set industry. If you are targeting a small group of people, there may not be opportunity where your content will garner the views that you want or the views in comparison to other people posting content. But then you have to just remember, are you doing it for the views or are you doing it for the revenue? Are you doing it for the views or are you doing it for the revenue? If you're doing it for the revenue, then focus on the mission at hand and focus more so on the data points that show that your actual ICP is actually getting involved in your content. And by that, they are actually engaged with your content to the point where they jump on a call with you and you actually get them to get more involved in what you do to the point where they want to work with you. But that's a topic later down the line. But the 5 hook styles: a contrarian hook, a timely hook, an origin-based hook, a results-led hook, or a relatable hook. So a contrarian hook for me is something that is a bit, I say left field, something that someone wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable, confident in saying, thinking that people may disagree, but they don't really care. Maybe I could be like, you know what, personal branding is never going to generate revenue for you. That could be deemed as contrarian on the basis of people who built successful personal brands. But then they would never tell you that it is their personal brand that generated the revenue. In actual fact, it is their business. But they presented their personal brand as something that is the revenue generating brand. But I disagree. I believe it is the level of brand authority that creates a revenue generating brand based on your personal brand, your business brand, and your campaign brand. But that's a story for a whole nother day. A timely hook can be more so based on, you know, time related things. It's in the name. So timely based on something that may have appeared in the news, right? Something that is a sort of major headline. I would say right now, a timely hook would be anything in relation to the World Cup. As I'm recording this, the World Cup is currently on, right? Semi-finals at this moment in time. Origin based is more so about you and your story, right? Your story, and how you are documenting your story. So for me, a hook for me is that I left my job on a Friday, and I went skydiving on the Saturday, and I decided I am never going to go back to corporate work ever again. That is my hook. That is my hook. But then it really just it's so wild of the days of like, okay, you was working on this day, then you resigned and you went skydiving, and then you decided that you're no longer going to go back to work. And that was an interesting time. I'm going to do a video on this later down the line, just giving the full details. But that is a hook. If you are interested based on that, let me know and I will do the video. Results led. That is when you are more so talking about the results that you would have achieved for yourself or for a client, and you're able to showcase the numbers and the results, the percentages and the data to reinforce your level of credibility in terms of why you are good at the things that you do. Relatability. Relatable hooks is something that majority of us will read and we will know exactly what the scenario is, and we just feel obliged to respond or to engage with it because it's something that is very much topical and relatable for everyone. So those are the 5 hook styles that I believe are the best styles to incorporate in the process of you trialing and testing different ways. And you know, the hook is ultimately down to how you are as an individual and the actual sort of experiences that you have been in to be able to drive in hooks that are interesting enough for other people to want to be immersed in, to find out exactly what's going on. And then with that, I want you to always think to amplify what you already have. As far as your foundations go, I want you to think about that, because you don't have a content problem. The content is not the issue. You can put the content out, you can develop the content, you can post the content. I believe it is a distribution problem. I believe that not many people are reusing, recycling, redistributing, repurposing any of their content enough. And it's like you do the one piece and then you just say, okay, that's it, on to the next one. When you haven't extracted all of the information and the content that can be put across various different platforms. So with that in mind, reuse what works and stack effort instead of resetting it all the time. Visibility compounds when effort compounds. And when you think of it like that, and then you start to compound your effort with the elements of being smarter with the approach of producing content, it will help so much. And it will then put you in a position where you then get comfortable with knowing that one piece of content can be distributed so many times across different platforms in various different formats. And tell the story that built you. Your story is not performance, it is proof, right? We all have stories. Some of us are maybe not too comfortable to share our stories. Some people, they tell us their story every single day, which is amazing. And it's necessary because it's these stories that will make you remember the why. It is the stories that will then allow you to then navigate, knowing that you have an objective and a mission. You have a before and after. I always talk about branding with the idea that brands always has a past, a present, and a future. And when you are able to incorporate that element into your brand for the foreseeable future, you can never go wrong, because you are using your past experiences as lessons that can be told today in the present, whilst you are living and documenting in the moment, whilst you are then amplifying to the world why you are doing it. What is your future looking like based on you doing the things now? All of it is relative as far as storytelling is concerned, and being able to tell the story that built you is, I think, incredibly important. So share where you were, share what shifted in the process, and then also share why it matters now. Because if you are not able to explain exactly why you're doing it with the amount of passion that is necessary for people to resonate and to agree with you and to want to support your mission, it's going to be a lot more harder for you to cut through if you don't have the actual people behind the narrative and the journey. Story builds trust when it shows earned perspective. And when you are able to be in a position to share your perspective, then everything sort of makes sense for everyone. It's like if you position yourself in the early stages, it's like a set of puzzles, right? All over the place. But with each story that you showcase and each time that you reinforce your reasons of your past, your present, and the future, every single time someone catches up with your content or they read it or they watch it or they listen to it, whatever the case, every single time that is an additional piece that is being placed on the board, right? And then the more that you do that, the more that people have a clear picture of exactly who you are. And that for me is an alignment of your brand based on how much you showcase and document your story. And that's the reason why I'm documenting it through the £1 million visibility blueprint. And with that in mind, you need to build a visibility driven network. So visibility moves through people, right? Relationships compound faster than reach. So if I was you, I would really start conversations, collaborate intentionally, and follow up consistently. And I know that one can be hard in particular. It can be hard to be following up all the time and to, intentionally reach out to people, but it is in your best interest to nurture these relationships. And I always say as well that when you are in the position of growing and building and developing and fixing your foundations, think about who you're networking with, but then think about why, right? Don't just network because you feel that this person is going to, catapult your whole career and everything, because it's not just about that. I always say that it is also very important to be networking and building relationships horizontally just as well as vertically, because when you are building and working with people who are on similar journeys as you, similar objectives, similar missions, you don't know anyone's future in terms of how things will go. But granted, if you are with the same level of passion and commitment to the cause, you will come across and meet so many go-getters and people really trying to make something of themselves in this lifetime. Keep those people close. And not just close because it will benefit you in the future, but close because iron sharpens iron. It keeps you accountable for the journey and what it means and what it takes in order for you to get to where you need to get to. So I would say that's definitely something to really bear in mind. Build those visibility-driven networks. And also audit your digital footprint, right? That's one thing that I feel many people do not do. They do not Google their name, and I have no idea why. Do people think it's weird that you Google your name? Maybe, but I think it's more weird for you not to Google your name and then you realize that there was a publication or a post that was out there and you had no clue, and then you're then thinking, why is someone not getting back to me about this job or whatever the case? Do your audits. Before people inquire, they search your name. It is a known fact. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what you're working on, what you're applying for, what you are looking to get a grant with, whatever the case. People will search your name. So your presence must answer instantly. What do you do? Who is it for? And why should I trust you? Clarity creates confidence. And there's various different ways that you can focus on getting your name on Google search. But not only that, but then how to ultimately curate it in a way that benefits you, right? And that comes down to search engine optimization, otherwise known as SEO. If I've covered it in this session, as I continue, then I will cover it. But if not, then it will definitely be in the next masterclass. But what I want you to know, based on the idea of search engine optimization, the way that you can build it, or one way you can build it where you can Google your name and things will start to appear, is through media coverage. Media is validation, right? Media is not about status. Whatever you think of the idea of media coverage, forget that. It is third-party credibility. You don't pitch yourself, right? You contribute perspective. And when you contribute perspective and you are positioned as a thought leader in your industry, in your niche, in your field, based on what you say, right? You align that with the level of positioning that we have covered today and the way that you have established all the hooks that has presented you as someone that people actually want to learn from and want to know more from. The additional level of third-party credibility aligned with all of those things will allow things to compound faster. In actual fact, credibility compounds fastest when others confirm it. And I use this example all the time. I could say I'm the best chef in the world, right? They say Tariq is the best chef in the world. I can tell you I'm the best chef in the world. You may hear that and you may think this guy's quite arrogant, isn't he? But then the next day you see my name plastered on various different publications because I won an award as the best chef in the world. Did I say the world? Let's say the world now. Now your perception of me has changed. Now it's no longer a thing where it's like I am just hyping myself up or making myself sound great. I have that third-party credibility and that level of acknowledgement from other sources that validates and verifies everything that I've been saying. And based on that, the level of credibility has enhanced as a result. So that's one thing I want you to really get clear on. What are you doing to build your level of third-party credibility? So the more that people Google your name, the more sources that appear that position you as the key person of influence and the obvious choice. And then what I want you to do is always align with your next chapter, right? Outgrowing old positioning is progress. And for me, this one hits a lot deeper because I went through the process of leaving my role, doing a couple freelance gigs and not necessarily knowing who I wanted to target, thinking I can target everyone when that wasn't the case at all. But I had to outgrow the old positioning to refine what I am doing now and the opportunities that present themselves now. Refinement is not reinvention, right? You are still the same person in that sense. You just have a new process and a new target of how you do things. So keep your values intact in the process of you aligning to your next chapter and use that as a way to elevate your authority, because now you can be in a position where you can actually use the things that happened previously that may have not gone to plan as content that you can use to amplify your story, to reinforce why you are actually a genuine person in that regard. And then that comes under trust for your personal brand. You being able to showcase the things that didn't necessarily go to plan, that is you building a level of trust with your audience, because you're not trying to be someone that you're not, and you're not pretending to live a life that you're not. It is the process and the journey of entrepreneurship. It has its ups and downs. When you are honest about it, you have a tribe of people who support because they know that you are very much trustworthy in the process of you going on the journey. So when you get to that end destination, it's always that much sweeter because you took everyone on the journey with you. So with that, you need to become the obvious choice, right? And you become the obvious choice through a level of clarity, consistency, and credibility. So when your brand is clear, decisions speed up, and they speed up big time, because it no longer becomes a game of, oh, is this person for me? Or like, I'm not sure what this person does. But through your level of having that level of clarity over time, being consistent with that level of clarity, that all aligns with the idea of credibility over time. And then it's just a thing where you are just known for what you are known for, because you said it enough times, you repeated yourself across various different platforms enough times, you've spoken to enough people every single day, you develop that aspect where you have now become the obvious choice by default by doing those things. So, based on fixing your foundations, here's a quick checklist, right? Have you defined your brand promise? Have you clarified your ICP? Have you drafted your method, like your methodology, your framework? Do you have one? Are you going to build one? Have you audited your digital presence? Have you Googled your name? Do you know if you're in any publications? Do you know what someone said about you online yesterday? Do an audit. Have you tested your elevator pitch? Have you gone to a networking event and explained exactly what it is that you do to a T? And that person says, I know someone that can help you. I know someone that would be interested in your services. Foundations must be functional, right? So focus on fixing your foundations based on what I have shared with you today, and then use that as the first step for you to build that level of brand authority. And that is it for today. That is it for today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Please do subscribe to this channel if you have benefited from this video. Please like the video and share the video if you feel that this will be useful for others. I appreciate you all, and I'll catch you tomorrow for day 2. Remember, today we spoke on how to start your level of brand authority. And tomorrow we will cover how to build your level of brand authority. All right. So look after yourself. I'll catch you tomorrow, and peace out. Look after.